Why were you trying to contact me?
You oppose the heretics, those that took the old machines as gods.
All kinds of organics fought Sovereign and his Geth allies. Why am I so interesting?
You were the most successful. You killed their god. You succeeded where others did not. Your code is superior.
Welcome to Superior Code. So I haven't been playing much video games recently because I'm trying to save money and I just don't feel like replaying the games I already own. So instead I've been watching movies that I've always wanted to watch and finally was able to, and catching up on shows, and I still think about video games. I want to talk about them, and I want to list some of my favorite movie premises and movie concepts that I wish were video games. So first of all, full spoiler warning for Doki Doki Literature Club, that game, and a small spoiler warning for Don't Worry Darling, that movie, because I'm about to compare that movie with another movie and it's going to totally give away the big twist. So there's your warning. In the first idea that I would like to see other video games do is have them be stuck in like a virtual world, and they not know that until like that's the twist. You find out that this video game is just a video game. So in Don't Worry Darling and The Matrix, it's exactly like that, where they find out they're in a fake world. So Don't Worry Darling is like The Matrix, but on a way smaller scale, because that world is totally normal. It's just this company that's like selecting a few people to be in their program in this digital area. And I would really like this idea to be in more video games other than just visual novels. But I just know Doki Doki is the only game that I've played that's done this, but I know other visual novels that has done this concept before. And in Doki Doki, it's loosely like that. So it has one of its characters in the game that's self-aware and is trying to like communicate with us, the player, through the game files. So it gives replay value, because at first you don't know that when you're playing the game, that there's files that she's kind of speaking to you, until like midway through the game, a file just pops up on your computer, like your real computer, not the character in the game, that tells you it sends you a message. So when you replay the game, you know by now, okay, just have these files open and she can talk to you in real time of when you're playing the game. So it's pretty cool, and it really makes it feel like she's like this soul or something, or this AI that's like trapped in this game, that she doesn't want to be in this loop, and she's trying to communicate with you in the real world. So that's just really cool. Like, it doesn't have, I'm not asking for other games to always break the fourth wall to do this, like being stuck in the Matrix type thing. It could totally just be a character, like we could play a character that's in the game, that's stuck in the game, kind of like Dot Hack and Sword Art Online, that anime, and I know they're video games as well, so kind of like that, but they don't know going into it that they're stuck in this world. So it doesn't have to make us, the player, into a character. I would love to, like, even we, the player, are tricked into, because like when we're watching the movie Don't Worry Darling, we don't know that at first, that that's what's happening to this character. We don't know that why is stuff being weird, and when we find out that it's like the Matrix type thing, it all makes sense. So I would love to see that as a game, where we see a character weirding out about like stuff just generating out of nowhere and asking like, where's all this food coming from? Why are we cut off from the rest of the world? There was a plane crashing and then it just suddenly disappeared when it got out of range. So I think it would be a really cool concept to just play that as like in a game than just always in movies. So before I go to the next one, I want to say a spoiler warning for the new movie Barbarian and the movie Nope. Just vague spoilers. I'm not going to go into detail. But the second idea I would like for a video game is when the tone changes mid-story. Like in Barbarian, it starts as a normal, eerie horror movie, then it just suddenly changes to a comedy. Where before, it was like 0% comedy, it was just like a buildup of tension and uncertainty, and just there's even like one little cheap jump scare, but it's just full on horror mode. And then suddenly this new character comes along and it's just, it makes you not scared anymore, but like you're happy about it. You're happy to see this character just not be afraid of anything. And usually I hate my horror mixed with comedy, but this movie did it in a way that works because the funny moments only come from one character. And it's not funny through the rest of the way, it's just the tone completely shifts and when this character comes around. And yeah, I just think it did it really, really well, and it made it such a fun movie. Like, without this character, this movie would be forgettable and nobody would care. Just be like a cheap horror movie they made really quick, just for money, I guess. But this movie, you could tell they had a fun time making it. And again, very vague, but in Nope, it starts out as a unknown horror and then it turns into an action monster movie. So I loved the tone change in that. And the only few games that I can think of is, of course, Doki Doki Literature Club. It changes its tone, but we get a clue when we start the game because a trigger warning pops up. So we kind of get a hint that it's not just a cutesy dating sim that it appears to be. But it stays a cute dating sim for like an hour until it changes. So yeah. And then in the 2014 game Thief, it did it as well, but only for one level. But I loved it. When it completely changed from like this sneaky action game to like all of a sudden it's a horror game and has a very creepy tone, it was so fun and exciting. And I've read that like apparently all the Thief games have that horror level, but I only played this one, so this is the only one I can reference. But it was really, really good. And it's like I was playing a whole different game. And I only got a taste of it in Cyberpunk 2077. There was one mission when you're hunting down the cyber psychos. There was a mission where it's like whispering in your ear, and it just, everywhere you look is like a bloodbath, and it has a very like supernatural vibe about it, but it's just that one little mission. And the tone change concept that I want for these games, it doesn't have to have horror in it at all. It could be a heartwarming love story at first, and then suddenly it turns into a very gory and violent action adventure. Or it can be a mystical, magical fantasy world, and then suddenly there's futuristic sci-fi robots, and it turns into that type of story with aliens and stuff. It doesn't have to have horror in it. I just noticed that horror is easy to put in to kind of change everyone's expectation. Like, at first if it's horror and then suddenly it's not horror anymore, or you know, suddenly it wasn't horror before and then suddenly you're scared all of a sudden. So it's horror is one of the easier ones to creep people out on like, oh, it's different now. But I've never seen a heartwarming story suddenly turn into like a violent story, other than this anime Samurai Flamenco, I think it's called. That's the only example that I can think of that does a tone change that has nothing to do with horror. So wouldn't that just be like such a fun experience where you buy a game expecting it to be one thing and then it suddenly turns into another? They can do it so well in movies and shows. Like, just think about how much more immersive of the experience it would be with a video game that you're actually interacting with. So I think video games could make you sucked into that world a lot more than a movie or a show could ever do if it was like done really well. So I'm just so excited thinking about the future where that does happen. Like, I really, really hope that more video games pick up this concept and isn't just horror games. But if it is, I'll still be happy. It's just, like I said, I'm also thinking about the show The Boys, how it doesn't really change its tone that you're unexpected of, but it does go back and forth between lighthearted comedy to all of a sudden violent comedy. Like, someone just explodes and it's so graphic and you're not expecting that because someone was just having a cute conversation. So that would be such a good experience to have in a video game. So the third idea I would like for a video game is characters treating the camera as a character, or treating us, the players, like a character, like what Doki Doki Literature Club does. And I'm not talking about like they just break the fourth wall every now and then by like winking at the camera and that's about all we get. Like, no, like, we are reoccurring. They keep looking at the camera and keep speaking to us. So the two movies I can think about right off the bat is Funny Games. They treat you like a character, and the Black Mirror movie, Bandersnatch. It's like a interactive movie on Netflix, and not only does the character talk to you, but you can respond to them. So also in the shows Mr. Robot and Fleabag, the main characters treat the camera as a character, like you're their friend, you're their invisible friend. So I would love to see that more in video games. And besides just Doki Doki, there's also Undertale, but Undertale only does that a little bit, to where if you quickly shut off the game and reload or something because you didn't like an outcome, the characters will tell you they noticed you did that. So they'll know that if you do that. And that's a little bit of how they'll talk to you, the player, but most of the time they just talk to the character. So I would love a game like that, but throughout the whole game they're just talking to us. And I don't mean like characters talking to the camera like a found footage style, or a camera handheld, or we're playing a first person game and other characters are looking at our camera. But that's not what I'm talking about, because they're not actually speaking to us, they're speaking to our character, and they're treating our first person view as the character's face. So I would love if it's like, think about a third person game where your character goes up to another NPC and we press like action button to talk to them, and instead of the character looking at your avatar to talk to you, it goes behind that character and looks at you in the camera. So that would be so immersive, so cool, or so creepy, depending on the tone. Yeah, I would love if a game did that. And instead of just, because I know there is a lot of visual novels that do that, that break the fourth wall, because that's the easiest way to do it, is because visual novel, you're kind of automatically in first person mode. When it doesn't break the fourth wall, you don't always see your character, you don't always see what your character looks like, you're just imagining that your character looks like you or something. So it's kind of automatically in first person. So I know there's a lot of other visual novels that do this, but I really, really think that a game could make it really fun or really creepy if it was in third person, or an actual first person adventure game, shooter, whatever, and all of the characters are talking to you and not your character, not your avatar. They know your avatar is a fake shell of a body in order for us to peek through into their world. It'd be so amazing. So the last concept idea I would love in a video game is the idea of characters playing a cursed game. Like, either it's the character in the game that we're controlling, or we are a character and it's basically meta to where it's telling us we are also playing a cursed game. For starting, pressing start on a game means we have to finish it or we're cursed. Or like, we're cursed no matter what, keep playing to figure out how to break the curse or whatever. Something fun like that, to where it's totally the type of people who would play with an Ouija board. This game is for them. For like, if you put this game into your console or PC, you're cursed and you have to finish it or whatever. Something fun like that. But if you don't want it as morbid, I could totally have fun with the idea of it not breaking the fourth wall whatsoever, and it's just about a character in the game we're playing, that character is playing, ends up getting a game or something, a board game or whatever, and it turns out to be cursed. Like Jumanji or The Ring. So in The Ring and Jumanji, it's about characters being cursed after they start playing a board game or after they start watching a video. So I would love there to be a game like these two movies. The only game I can think of to where the characters curse themselves unintentionally is Corpse Party. It's about a group of high school kids who do a ritual because they're all gonna like leave, and they kind of do like a ritual that they looked up online to say like, how do we like bless ourselves, do some type of ritual to where we'll always be friends forever or whatever. And it turns out that was someone put up this ritual as a trap to get people to do it, because it teleports them to this hellish place, and it turns out it's a curse. And that is the only game I can think of to where they kind of have to find a way to get out of there and to break this curse and to get back to safety. If you can think of any other games that do this, let me know. And of course, Doki Doki, I just want to bring it up again because Doki Doki is so amazing with its horror, that it has almost all of these concepts in it, where it's not necessarily a cursed game, but your first playthrough, you're thinking it is, because the game puts in glitching effects, like your computer's messing up or like the game's messing up, and it happens so little that you're not sure if like you're being hacked or whatever. So it gives it a really cool creepy effect, like she's trying to take control of your computer or something. Oh, and there's another game called Eternal Darkness, where the game itself isn't cursed, but the characters have a sanity meter or a sanity bar, and if it gets too low, it could kind of mess with your game visual and make it seem like your game is glitching, or that you're playing an enemy, or that your save data was being deleted, but after a few seconds it goes back to normal. And it's just a little fun thing of like, don't let your sanity bar go down, or you can't play the game comfortably. So I would really love a full game with that effect in it, because Eternal Darkness, that wasn't its main point. It's just a random effect. You never know what's gonna happen when your sanity bar goes down. So I would really love if more games were made where, like Corpse Party, where you play as a set of characters who are cursed, but instead of getting teleported to another realm or whatever, they stay in their normal everyday lives and have to deal with this curse. Like in The Ring and Jumanji, they stay in the same world, they just kind of have to deal with the chaos of seeing the supernatural stuff happening and other characters and other people reacting to it. And the police, and it getting messy when the police are involved, and you don't want them to think you're crazy or your characters are crazy. So, and another game that did this was Fatal Frame 3. I think in the first two games you physically go to these locations, but in the third game, every time your character goes to sleep, she kind of gets sucked into like the ghost realm, and then when she wakes up, little by little, the ghosts are kind of bleeding into her apartment and are happening to her when she's awake. So I would love to play more games like Fatal Frame where it's happening in the real world. So think of that Fatal Frame 3 game, but you get to go out into the city and it's more open world, like Fallout, The Witcher, and Cyberpunk, to where you're cursed. You're playing a cursed character. And again, to bring it back, this could work as like a game for people who want to do seances for fun, or like play an Ouija board for fun. If the game broke the fourth wall and is like, once you press start, you're cursed, or once you put this game on, once you install this game, you're cursed, and you have to finish it or do these set of rules in this game in order to not be cursed anymore. So yeah, I would love to see a game do that, because it could work so much better than a video or a movie, or like texting, like chain texting, where someone will send you something like, oh, you better send this to 5 people or you're gonna die tonight or whatever. So that, like, a video game can be way more interactive than that. So it could work really well if it was done well. And I'm just so excited for the future, because I feel like it is getting to that point where video games are so popular now and mainstream that anything you can think of for a show or a movie, it should be tried as a concept and a story for video games as well, because that's another way for people to pass the time. It's another hobby for people to enjoy, just like reading, or doing sports or whatever. It's just another hobby, instead of it, being seen as like, oh, only little kids play games. So I like how the future is showing that, like, any age can enjoy a video game. So yeah, this is my wish list, and thanks for listening to these video game concepts.